Thanks for spending the next 50 minutes with me diving in product into QuickBooks Accountant Pro Premier and Enterprise Solutions 2014. Glad to have you aboard. The new Client Collaborator, which is a tool to converse with your clients in the cloud as the accountant regarding transactions. You connect to your client and the conversation is passed back and forth on Intuit servers. I have my version of my client's file, the client has their version of their file. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that right now in product. Get out of the PowerPoint here, and I'm in the QuickBooks Accountant Plus 2014. You do need the Plus version of QuickBooks Accountant 2014 in order to start or initiate the conversation with your client, and the client also needs to be on QuickBooks 2014. It supports bill, check, and credit card charge for right now. So I'm going to go into the Vendor Center and bring up this Staples credit card charge for $2,000. Probably has to do with a computer, perhaps. So you can either click the Ask Client icon in the upper right, or under the Accountant menu, click on Ask Client About Transaction. The transaction conversation comes up. For this particular transaction, shows the date, the type, if you have a reference number, the name, and the amount. I'm going to ask, what was this purchase for? And go ahead and add it to the conversation list and go ahead and close that. And now I'm also going to look at another transaction. I believe there's a check there for a rather large amount. Just check that out. So again, I go ahead and ask client about the transaction, or this time I'll go ahead and click on the little Ask Client icon on the upper right. So what was this charge purchase for? Go ahead and add, and this time I'm going to add and open the conversation list itself. So here I'm in the tracking conversations list where, they're my questions. I do not yet have answers from the client, but I'm going to go ahead and notify the client, and then they'll go in their QuickBooks Pro 2014 and answer it. We'll take a look at that, but you'll find this information, view conversation list under the accountant menu as well, right in about the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and click notify client. And the notification has been sent to the client, and we'll close out of here. And I'm also going to go into the client's perspective. So at the client location, they got an email from the accountant. Essentially says, I have a few questions for you about some transactions in your company file. Would you please respond to them? And notice there's no link to click in here. They just go to the company menu, view conversation list, and respond there. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm in my client's QuickBooks Pro here. Go to the company menu, view conversation list. And here's that same window we saw on the accountant side. A client sees it as well. What was the purchase for? I'm going to choose this one was for a new laptop. And then what was this purchase for? The check from ABC vendor. This was a big party we had. And the client will add the message to the conversation list by clicking the arrow on the right to each answer. It gets added there. And then this one as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and notify the accountant of my answers. Just click notify accountant. Email's been sent, and then we'll resolve it by going over to the accountant side, and it just goes back and forth like this. Again, it's not meant to be instant messaging. That's not what I mean. I just happen to be doing it really fast, but the accountant's going to get it, the next morning or later, take a look at it when they're done with another file or the other work they're doing and see the answers, and then let's go ahead and code the transactions. Okay, continue on with the story. The accountant, gets an email from the client, and it just says, I have questions for you about some transactions in the company file. So it's the same language going back and forth, but essentially I just go to the accountant menu, view conversation list. So that's just how we're doing it. Let's go ahead in my QuickBooks file here, accountant, view conversation list. And now as the accountant, I can see my client's answers. So the purchase for a new laptop, and then there was a big party they had. So now when I go into my QuickBooks, I can actually make the appropriate codings to both the check, meals and entertainment, okay, and maybe put in a memo here for party so we know what it was for. And then, of course, then in my credit card charge, I can go ahead and choose the appropriate fixed asset account if it is a fixed asset. So either way, I'm able to converse with my clients at the transaction level using the new Client Collaborator. This concludes that video segment. We roll on to the next. Three of the enhancements or improvements to existing accountant tools in QuickBooks Accountant 2014, which a lot of you pro advisors who are listening to this video or watching it right now, you can probably download your software even today or in the next few days. But I'm in QuickBooks Accountant 2014 Plus. But let's go look at the Client Data Review tool, and one of the most popular features of it is reclassify transactions, right? It's been around since 2010. And I know everyone's using it. It's even in QuickBooks Online Accountant, right? So clients will oftentimes miscode transactions, and you can come in here and just recode them to the appropriate account and even reclassify. So you guys already know that, and you're using that already. But clients will also write a check from the wrong account as well. And right now we don't really have a way uh, to batch reclassify until, of course, QuickBooks Account 2014. So I choose, balance sheet accounts, and whether I'm going to cash or accrual, either way, there's my wrong account there. And I choose written from selected account, and they're all my checks, and I can actually select them all, and I can move them to the appropriate checking account and reclassify them. So it's not always that they're miscoding the target account. A lot of times it's the source account too, right? So instead of having to just drill in on each transaction and change it here and save and close in the warning, right, and the little blip, badoop, then you can just do it in a batch right here when you reclassify it. Okay. Another improvement to an enhancement from last year is batch enter transactions. Now, batch enter transactions was in QuickBooks Accountant and any enterprise version. It'll still be for 14. And it was also in QuickBooks Bookkeeper, but we're discontinuing that product. But still, last year it supported checks, deposits, credit card charges, and credits. This year we're adding bills and bill credits, invoices, and credit memos. And if you've used it before, it works the same. However, I did want to show a bill. I mean, it's great for heads down entry, and you can actually customize the columns to match the spreadsheet you're copy pasting from, or just what you actually have for the vendor. So I'm going to actually leave these. I'm going to get rid of the memo, but you can customize the columns. And you just you have your date tab across, or you guys hit enter and put in the actual reference number and vendor name and the terms, and then the amount, and then you just go to the next tab and keep going. Right? So great for heads down data entry. Let me clear that and show you though for invoicing or bill. I just have a bunch of invoices in Excel. And here's my Excel file. Let me open this up all the way. And you can customize the columns, again, like I said, to match the spreadsheet you're pasting in from. So I have date, number, customer job, item amount, tax code, tax item, and then tax amount and total will fill out on their own. And I can literally just copy paste, whether I'm getting this from another software or what have you, PayPal even, this would work great, right? Get all your invoices in Excel and then just Control V and it's going to go ahead and fill it all out. So it behaves the same as it did last year, the batch enter transactions. It's just that this year we do support, bill and bill credits and invoices and credit memos. Okay, so I'm going to clear this and close it out. And another thing to mention is last year we also had the ability to send general journal entries to your Pro or Premier Enterprise client. And it just creates a file, a .qbj attachment on the email, and the client just had to double click on it and it'll open up a smaller window to add the journal entry to the file. I just wanted to mention that this now supports QuickBooks Mac 2014. So if you're just doing journal entry cleanup for your Mac clients, you don't have to do the round tripping because we know the accountant's copy does not integrate with the QuickBooks for Mac. But now you could, as long as you're in QBA 2014 and they're on QuickBooks Mac 2014, I can go ahead and email it as an attachment, and then I'll show you the email and what the client would do in a sec. So here's what the email looks like, and here's the .qbj file. And just like last year, it's not encrypted. You can open it with a text file, but it's only going to have balances in the accounts in there that you affect with your journal entries. And what your Mac client would do is just double click on it, and in the Add Journal Entry window, just click to add, and it'll add it right into the QuickBooks Mac, just as if they were a client of yours on Windows was added into QuickBooks Pro. So if you don't have to really do any sub-ledger work, and you're just going to go ahead and use journal entries, you don't need a round trip anymore with the QuickBooks Mac, right? But make sure they're on Mac 2014 as well. This concludes that video segment. We roll on to the next. The homepage customization options that are new, as well as some customization options with QuickBooks Email. So you remember last year with 2013 R1 release, there was a lot of dark gray, right? And some just people didn't want the dark gray on the left navigation panel, on the top icon bar, etc. So even when I come into my desktop view in my preferences and go back to dark gray, the top icon bar is now dark blue, actually. And you can color code your company files. This was actually an R6 release with 2013, but in 2014, if you just had 12 or 11, just so you know what it looks like. So I'm going to change this just to kind of a blue-gray if you will. I can also switch the top icon bar to colored icon bars if I want to, so a lighter, if you will. It's similar to what it used to be, say, in 2012. I'm going to go ahead and put it back to the dark blue, though, right now. Click OK. Also, under the View menu, I can go to the left icon bar, left navigation panel, which is also a dark blue, a lot easier to see and view versus the dark gray, I find, particularly with the contrast of the light gray font, of your options. Another thing too is you can customize the actual shortcuts, just like last year, but I can customize the actual balances that show up in the View Balances window. That's something also to mention. You can have different types of actual accounts there as well on the left navigation panel. That customized View Balances has nothing to do with the balances over on the home page. Let me just go back to the top icon bar for a second, and we'll go to Home. It doesn't have anything to do with these balances over here. So it's really if you're using the left navigation panel. And again, where you want to make these changes, depending on how you want to view it. A lot of people like the top icon bar. You can literally go back to this view just by clicking switch to colored, and then of course you can color code company files. Right now, those two things, like I said, are more later releases in 2013, but again, 2014 will have that as well. And the big difference is just that from dark gray, kind of the dismal gray, to a dark blue, which is just a lot easier on the eyes. Now let's talk about emails. All right, you've always been able to send out forms from QuickBooks for a long time. And if you go to company preferences, now you have the ability to create your own templates that you'd like to send out. So before it was just, for all of these templates you're going to email out of QuickBooks, there was really one standard, and you could still edit it. But we now are giving you the ability to actually create your own templates, and this is in Pro Premier and Enterprise Solutions. So I have a basic invoice here. I'll just go ahead and edit that just so you can see what it looks like. And you can change the language, and I can also insert fields here. Right? So, and more changes to come. Let me go into the current invoice. I actually did insert the due date field, and where that comes into play is when I go ahead to File, Send Forms. And I'm just going to change it from current to, basic. Actually, it's on the current invoice. You see your invoice due date is. So based on the due date on the invoice, it'll be there. So there's a lot of fields that you can go ahead and insert on there. And I'll go back just in case I went too fast. Let me go back to the preference there. Again, edit preferences, send forms, company preferences. And then when you're actually editing a particular template, here's the fields that you can insert. Okay. So more to come from this later. Also, let me go to an actual transaction. When you have an attachment on an invoice, because we know that you can attach documents to invoices in QuickBooks. That's been around since 2010 really, and now we have the Doc Center. So when I do attach a document, I'll just pick one from my computer, if you will. There we go. When I attach a document to a bill, an invoice, a check, or what have you, when I go to email, I can now invoice in it, and it'll also email the invoice with that template that I've already created, plus it'll attach the attachment that's on the actual transaction. And not only can you do it from the transaction itself, but when I go back to File, Send Forms, I can also click the Attach button here, and it'll go out and grab an attachment. So from both places can you do that. So those are some of the customization options really that are new with QuickBooks 2014. The sending forms, so emailing forms out of QuickBooks, and of course the home page, however you want to do it. I was really primarily a top icon bar user forever. Again, I'm not a fan of dark gray. So now I like the left icon panel, and I just kind of minimize it. Right? Just like you could last year, but it's just a much more appealing and I find user-friendly color. This concludes that video segment. We roll on to the next. The completely revamped online banking in QuickBooks Pro Premier and Enterprise Solutions. It's actually now called Bank Feeds, and you can access it under the banking menu. I mean, we've been able to do online banking within QuickBooks desktop products, and it's in Mac, and of course, the downloaded transactions in QuickBooks Online forever, and so, but we've really wanted to revamp the workflow, the user interface, just to make it faster, less clicks, and just more of a spreadsheet module, if you will, a lot easier to read. You still have the register mode, and then you have the side-to-side mode, but this by far, from my opinion, is just way superior, I think, and it still does the same kind of stuff, plus some, particularly with renaming rules. So you can go from bank feeds to bank feed center, and of course here's where you connect to your account. This setup wizard is much more simplified, less pages to go through, much more intuitive. And then you can always check out your on the list of participating financial institutions if your bank is supported with online banking within QuickBooks. Or from the left navigation panel, you can add it to the top icon bar, just click on bank feeds, and it's going to go ahead and load it in the next window there. Okay, at this point, to get some real estate back, I'm going to minimize my left-hand panel. Love that. And here's the bank feeds main window. Right, it shows my bank account, the balance as far as the bank thinks I should have, and here's what I have in QuickBooks. And then there's 24 transactions are waiting to be added. I can create, as long as it's supported with your bank and you have it set up, you can create new online checks, pay bills, transfer funds, etc. Contact your bank from here, and then send items or activate another account. I'm going to go ahead and click on transaction list, and that's going to open the list of 24 transactions that I need to work on. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click on that, and it's going to load for a second. And here, excuse me, are the transactions that I'm going to go ahead and work on, just to give you an idea. So of course there's logarithms involved in the back end, where QuickBooks will auto-match transactions. So right away in my register, this is new to QuickBooks, this is already in the register, it's already been auto-matched. So I'm going to go ahead and click on these four. And again, the workflow kind of goes left to right, like a spreadsheet. And I can show what type of the transaction it is. You can filter by status or type or date range, who it's downloaded as, the payee, etc. And since I have a payee, I don't have one on this one, so I'm going to go ahead and actually quickly, under batch actions at the bottom, add approve, and that will actually take that. Or you'll see the action timeline, what's the next logical step, but I'm going to go ahead and approve them all, just these three. It says 3 have been added and 1 is still waiting. Again, I don't have the payee field there. So let's go back to the need your review. And I'm going to go down to the amount for 2567, and I actually know who that is. It's going to be for Daigle Lighting, and the account's going to be repairs and maintenance. And it's going to create a renaming rule that'll automatically categorize this, and anything with this name is going to be for Daigle Lighting. And I'll actually create a rule, because maybe it's not the best example. I'm sure you have a more real-life example, but just very helpful when I go ahead and check it off and then go over to Quick Add. It actually created a renaming rule. So these are created automatically, and then you can decide whether to reject the rule or to click OK. Okay, and let's go into that rules section. We'll come back. So I've made one change, right? 19 still need my review. So the workflow is there, and it's just very simple. And I like the spreadsheet view. It's just I feel a radical departure from the side to side. And then register mode, I know people love it, but it's just really old. Okay. Anyway, no offense, of course. So rules, I'm going to right click new, and we'll just say credit, because I have used this term for this particular person. The description contains, and if it just contains credit in it, the word credit, or you could have depot for Home Depot. I'm going to rename it to, I'm going to choose Jason, just so you can see. When I click save, there were 3 or 4 credits on that window. And now they've all been named with a payee of Jason Birch. And then I can go ahead and choose my account for that and go ahead and actually, we'll say it was advertising promotion. So it's very simple to go ahead and choose what it would be from your chart of accounts there on the list. And then I can go ahead and just check off those 3. And go ahead and approve them. So a pretty simple workflow to work on it. Again, it's like you're on a spreadsheet. You have your renaming rules. They are created automatically, or you can go in and add them yourself to link things like when you get from the bank and they're not sure the payee, or they add some language after the payee name. You no longer have to create aliases, all right, or have multiple vendors for this. Just very simple to go ahead and check them all off and add them in a multiple way or one at a time. Here's some more of the action items that you'd have. Quick add more details. You can even match to an existing transaction. So this one might be for an existing transaction. I can click on this. It's going to open up where it might have been I'll show all transactions. Doesn't find any for that match, but if you had one, you could see it there. And again, they're made to automatically add it. So in the auto section, you'll see that. So that's banking feeds, the renaming rules, and much simpler, yet I feel more efficient for workflow when you're reviewing the transactions that need attention that you've downloaded from your bank or credit card institution. And this is supported in the new bank feeds is in QuickBooks Pro, Premier, and Enterprise of 2014. This concludes that video segment. We roll on to the next. Some transactional improvements or enhancements that are new that you or your clients or customers could really take advantage of to make things just more efficient, or it just kind of makes more sense, if you will. First off, the reporting ribbon on transactions. When you click reports, we've added, we just had the quick report, transaction history, and transaction journal in 2013, and these reports were always there. They were just a different way to get to them prior to 2013, before the big user interface change. Pretty much from 2006 to 2012, QuickBooks looked the same, right? And then that was the last user interface change was 06, and then it was 13. In 14, we added by transaction type key reports you think you'll want to go to as well. So we added some reports to the reporting ribbon that should be specific to the transaction you're on. That's a better way to say it. Also, which is really cool, is I can copy lines from one line to another on a transaction. And you'll find that there, as well as I could do it under the main, and there's an ability to copy line, paste line. So we've added those features to transactions as well, and that might be helpful for some of you. Now let's take a look at the Payroll Center, because that's changed quite a bit as well. I'm going to close all the windows here, and I'm going to go to Employees and then Payroll Center. So all the tools and features are the same, and the user interface for the most part are the same, but instead of having 3 sections top to bottom, we've basically created tabs, right, with quick guides and other activities and reports and also services you can attach and connect down below. So let me open up the Payroll Center a little bigger. So here would be my paychecks, and the workflow is going to be the same, so like 3 steps. And here's my recent payrolls, but that's nice to see. I don't remember seeing that on the Payroll Center. And then, of course, my liabilities as well. And I can see my e-payments as well as all my payment history on one window. So that's a big change. Then finally, filing forms. I'll have my federal and the state forms, depending on what my employees, what state they're working in. And I can go ahead and see the saved filings and look at what's been e-filed, as well as quick guides, like I said, and other activities there. And each has kind of a, the forms tab there. And so here's where you can view pay, and then of course pay employees. So a lot easier. Plus, what I really like, or what I take away from this, is I can access my previous payrolls without having to go to employees, edit void paychecks. So I kind of like that, or running a report. So that's new with the actual Payroll Center. So let's close out of there. Another key transaction enhancement, really. Let's go to the Vendor Center for a second. Now, you guys know the story. When you have a bill which was paid fully with a credit, if it's partial, you can go ahead and print the bill payment stub, and you'll see the partial credit amount applied to that bill along with the bill payment. However, when you take a credit and fully apply it to a bill, and you try to go print out the bill payment stub, it's just the bill. Right, it's just gone, and what you have to do is do a history, and shoot this, and then send it to your vendor, right, to prove your case. No, I had a credit. I'm telling you, I had one. You gave one to me. So, what I like about this now is with 2014 Pro, Premier, and Enterprise, I go to File, Print Forms. I'm going to choose Bill Payment Stub, and let's preview this. And there it is. See the bill and the credit when the credit was applied fully to pay off the bill. So that's an improvement. Really, that's an enhancement to me, because it was just never working correctly before, if you will. And then finally, a true feature enhancement. Let's go to the Customer Center this time. And I'm going to go ahead and use Mike Balak here, and he has a payment. And the bounce check story, there's quite a few steps in the Help Center. But here's a way you can do it just right from the customer payment window, you go ahead and click Record Bounce Check. And I can even classify it. I'm going to put in the bank fee that I was charged for, say $45, and the date. Here's the expense account for the service charges. I'm going to go ahead and invoice a customer what I charge them when they bounce a check against payment for me, right, against my invoice. And instead of having to follow all those steps and help, and it's really involved creating these other charge items and linking to these accounts, etc. And just you have to remember to delete the payment from the invoice and then create another invoice and make sure you take it out of the register, right? All that stuff that you guys have to do. And now you actually have a bounce check module or feature right from the customer payment window. So I fill out that information, I click next, and it tells me what it's going to do. So the following invoice 1022 is unpaid now, right? So that debit AR will be there still. These following fees will be deducted from my bank account. From checking, the payment will be deducted, and of course the service fee for $45. That'll be credited from my bank account, and then finally the invoice will be created for the fee I want to send along to my customer, right? And that invoice is still open, so it takes care of all that with really 2 clicks once you fill out the fields. And then it leaves behind a bounce check flag on the actual customer payment, so you know that it's there. So pretty cool as far as that goes. And I wanted to also mention in the Customer Center, we added a sent email tab. So when you send emails to your clients, you'll be able to see them there. We always get this request, and there's no way really to track it unless you send it through Outlook, right? The QuickBooks doesn't really keep it, so now it will. And if I actually go back to the Employee Center, there's also a sent email for employees as well when you send them their pay stubs. So a couple new other features to mention. And finally, the last thing to cover would be, the income list in QuickBooks Online, very popular, right? So what we've done is we have an income tracker now in QuickBooks Pro, Premier, and Enterprise Solution. And it's the same theory, same approach. You have a money bar up top going from estimates to sales orders, open invoices, what's overdue, and what's been paid. And the actual columns, like a spreadsheet, very familiar, very easy to work on and visually, easy for the workflow and easy on the eyes. And it tells the user and yourself the next logical action, right? So let's start with, this particular, let's go to an estimate here. We'll start with Babcock's Music Shop. I'm going to go from the estimate. I'm just going to go through the thing. Typically, you guys will skip the sales order, go right to the invoice, but just so you can see it move from side to side. This estimate number 615. I'm going to convert it to a sales order. It's going to go ahead and tell me that. And there's the sales order, right? I'm going to save and close it. And then I'm going to go to sales orders. Now I have the sales order. I'm going to go ahead and convert it to an invoice. That would be the next logical step. Of course, you can filter these by job, type, right? Status, date, etc. If I clear show all, it's going to bring me back to the beginning where I can see all. So now I can filter by all of this. This is probably a better way to show it to you. Different statuses, okay, and of course date, and of course, your customer job list. Let's go back to sales orders. Click on Bob's Music Shop and go ahead and convert that to an invoice. I'm going to do it for all the items. You can do it for selected, just like you would, like progress invoicing if you will. Go ahead and save that. And now we'll go to open invoices. If it's not, I have none overdue, so red is good because that's things you need attention, but I have nothing overdue. And then I can actually look for Babcock's Music Shop, the invoice here. The next logical step over in the action column is going to be receive a payment. It's going to bring in the receive payment window with the invoice already checked off. I click save and close, and then there's nothing overdue, and then this shows me what has been paid in the last 30 days. So that's nice flow for your clients as well as for yourself, and just training. Instead of using the home page, which has arrows, but sometimes it's easy to forget what the next step or next action that's logical in the process, starting from that first event, which might have been the sales order, estimate, or invoice. I'd love to see this on vendors as well. In the new QuickBooks Online, you'll see similar money bar and action plan or timeline for vendors as well as customers. But for Pro, Premier, and Enterprise 2013 and the Mac, I want to say for QuickBooks Mac has a similar income tracker. This concludes that video segment. We roll on to the next. Job cost improvements in Pro and Premier 2014. So when I edit the job and go to job info and I choose job status, you might want to run a report and filter by job status. So now with Pro and Premier and of course Enterprise 2014, I'll just do an estimates by job here. I can go to Customize Report, Filter, and then if you scroll really down towards the bottom, you'll see job status. It's like 3 down from the bottom. I'll just do pending. So I can filter the actual report by job status, which can be helpful. Also, you can add to a job a sales rep. Under additional information, rep, and I can go ahead and add a particular rep who might have won the bid or the contract, and you want to track that through because right now sales reps are only added to the sales receipt and invoice. So now I can actually add it to a job and actually add it as a column on reports or filter reports by sales rep. And this would be great for estimates as well because they're non-posting, so they don't always show up on the reports you're looking at when you're trying to figure out how much you're going to pay your sales rep. So that is an added benefit there. So the key things for just Pro and Premier would be filtering reports by job status, as well as adding sales rep to the particular job. This concludes that video segment. We roll on to the next. Some enhancements and feature improvements for Enterprise Solutions 2014 or 14.0. I'm in the Inventory Center, and I have this interior door kit, which is a subassembly of a larger final interior door kit assembly. And Enterprise already has some features in the assembly process that are more advanced than Premier, like actually being able to do a variable build or pulling components off when you're building the assembly. But one thing it never could do till this year, and I'm actually going to go to build assemblies, is if I put in, quantity of 40, you probably see this checkbox says build nested assemblies like that, and tab off, it's going to tell me, I have to make pending, and that's because the interior door kit itself, the subassembly of this larger assembly, only has 20 on hand. So, before, even though it's cool that I could go in and I can, quickly edit let me X out of there for a second. There we go. That'll help. Even though I can go ahead and edit this component item and swap it out, which is great. Premier doesn't do that, but a lot of the columns are editable in Enterprise on the build assembly, which helps manufacturers and distributors and wholesalers and those doing retail type work. And you're actually having a finished product that has many stages to it. So I put in the 40 there. It said it was make it pending, so I'd have to go then build all the subcomponents or subassemblies before I actually build the finished good. And you guys know that to be true for building assemblies within Enterprise. However, if I check off the box to build nested assemblies, and then, which I think it now says in R1, I'm in the beta 3, but in R1 it's going to say, build subassemblies. So it's going to be, I think the language is going to be clear, although in the industry, as you guys know, it's nested assemblies. If I put in 40 now and tab off, there's no pending. So it's actually, when I click build and close, it's going to build the actual subassembly as well, or exploding build, I think is another term in the industry that this now supports. So it's a lot easier now to do the assembly process within QuickBooks if you're using Enterprise 14, because it'll build the subassemblies for the finished product when you build the finished product. Okay, so that should save you time there. Let me clear that so I can show it at another time. Another thing too, I'm actually going to go into the assembly itself, and you notice that my cost is 0, and we have some preferences. So last year in QuickBooks, we came out with the ability to, update costs and price. I think it was a pop-up. Over the last couple of years we've had that, but for assemblies we have not had that. So now if I go to edit preferences, you see it's 0, right? I'm going to go to edit preferences, and then of course items and inventory and company preference. You get on automatic cost and price updates. So this is for non-assembly items, we've had this, but now I can use the auto-updated bill of material cost for the assembly cost, and when the bill of material cost changes, update the actual sales price itself. So that, when I go ahead and click OK, and it's going to have me close all open windows, I'll come back into the Inventory Center in a second as it comes back around. So now you see, as we go back to my interior door kit final, the cost has changed to $191 using the global preference there. And I can do a user-defined cost and put it in myself if you want, or I can do a total bill of material cost if I like. So it'll update it based on the preference you have, and I'm going to use the global preference there. So $120 for the total bill of material costs you see down here in my BOM here. Now, I can also edit the markup and put in a percent here. And it'll automatically calculate the margin for me. So you could either do a markup percent or a margin, depending on how you like, and then you can choose a type of markup. And so I'm going to go ahead and click OK here, and then that's my new cost, and that's my price. And when my cost change of a component item, the actual sales price will be reflected as well. And that's important because sometimes you'll go in, and I wanted to show you guys another thing with the assemblies, is this where used report. So I'll go to this interior door kit and right click on it, choose assemblies where used, and it's going to say it's part of the door kit final, but I could also replace it with a different item if I want to. And you might see an item that's part of several different kits or several different assembly items or finished goods, and you can replace them with ease. And when you replace it with a particular part and that cost changes, because the parts have a different cost, it'll update not only the cost of the entire BOM, but also the sales price. So that's I really like that piece, and you can take a piece off of an actual kit just by leaving it blank. See, leave blank to remove from selected assemblies. You click replace, it's going to give you a warning, and then it'll take it off. Or you can choose, instead of the interior door, I want to do an exterior door for that. And now I'm going to replace the interior door kit from an interior to an exterior door. Click replace, and it's going to replace it. And now if I actually go to the interior door kit and we'll look at the BOM, you see now it's an exterior. So that helps, and it'll update also the cost if the cost changed, and then the sales price. And you want to set up your markups and margins for these items, definitely. Okay, so those are the assembly improvements for Enterprise 14 and some of the preferences that you're going to see there. Now let's go to advanced pricing, which is also a preference. And this is what I told you is the add-on for the advanced pricing module, and it really just allows you to do quantity discounts. You can set up price rules as opposed to price levels, and there's much more complexity as far as rules and parameters you can apply for a date range. You can do an exclusive override, if you will, and assign it to customers or items and other things. So I'll show you here. I'm going to go into sales and customers preference, and it's company preferences down at the bottom. So, regular price levels is what you have for price levels, and you can click the link to read the real difference between price levels and price rules. But in my mind, if knowing price levels for so long in QuickBooks, price rules are just much more sophisticated in what you can do. And you guys will show this, because I'm going to show you the price rule list. I've set up a couple already. I'm not going to round the price, but you can choose to do rounding across all price rules or set a rounding for each price rule. So it's really like more of a almost some advanced point of sale technology within Enterprise itself. And that's important to note here in this video that you might want point of sale. That's great. It has excellent user security, and it's really for a retail establishment. But if you're doing tons of invoicing, I would rather have Enterprise, and I have the security in Enterprise. I can use the barcode scanning that's part of advanced inventory, and now I have the advanced price rules. So, I mean, it's a worthy argument and debate if I need point of sale or can I just go along with Enterprise. So, I'm not talking you out of point of sale. I'm just saying this is really helpful. So, I'm going to go to List, Price Rule List, and I set up a couple. One was my Oktoberfest door special, so let's drill in there. And basically, I just set it for one customer. Okay, and that's just going to be my Ruby customer, but I could choose other customers as well. I could also set the condition for items, classes, or sales reps, which might be helpful, and I'll show you another one where I have where items. Also, I did it in a date range, so 10/1 through 12/20, that's when I celebrate Oktoberfest, typically here in Texas, and then I set the price to be 10% lower, but you have some options. You can do an amount, lower or higher, and then either the base price or the cost. And then you can set up a price override that regardless of the actual rule I have set up, the price for, let's say, the appliance or the cabinets will still be what the price override is. It's exclusive to that item. So I have that item set up, and I also have a summer sale item set up, and they are conflicting actually. I did that on purpose. This one runs from June 21st to October 20th. It's 20% lower than the base price, just to give you guys an idea. And I actually set the condition to be for all inventory parts. So we'll show this, and then I'll go into the discounting on the items, which is still part of the advanced pricing, but different from, say, a price rule. So let's go to the doorknob standard, or the interior door kit, I guess that's fine, and we'll just do a sales receipt. And let the sales receipt come up there. There we go. And I'm going to choose my Ruby customer, and I'll go ahead and choose the interior door. Oops, let me see here. INT, there you are. And you'll see this little icon. Now I'm doing 12, 15, 17, and let's say he's going to buy 2 of them. But when you click on the icon, the little Z icon there, it actually shows the door special that I have for the fall, and it's 10% off, and it's already been applied, right? If I change to, going out a month or to like January, this price goes back to the base price is 72, and the icon's gone. No price rule is actually in effect for this date range. Let me go back to October 1st. And you'll see the price is different. I click on the Z icon here. There's actually 2 specials, a 20% or 10, and it's obviously going to choose I'm going to choose the one that's greater, of course. And I know you're not going to have conflicting rules, but just in case someone did that, it warns you. You've selected conflicting price rules, so that's helpful too. And it always shows me the last sold price right on when I'm on the transaction. This information very helpful, and then it tells me the total adjustments here and what the price will be. So love that piece. Also, let's look at the discounts, and I'm going to go back to let's see what open windows I have, the inventory center. And yes, I am using the left icon bar often. I love the dark blue. I'm not going with the top icon bar like I was last year. I'm just not a big dark gray fan. What can I say about that, really? Do like the dark blue. So doorknob standard, I'm going to edit this item, and I've set up two discounts on it. I love this one, it's my favorite, but you take it with a grain of salt. It's just cool to be able to do all this stuff within QuickBooks Financial, right? Without an add-on. I mean, it is the advanced pricing is an add-on, but still, it's within QuickBooks. It's our own functionality. So our enterprise can do a lot with the advanced pricing. So I have a quantity set up. The cost is sales price is $30, but it's $28.50 if I buy 20 or more, and then 30 or more is $27. Right. So I have the discount set up there on the actual doorknob standard. Let me go back to my sales receipt here, and I'm going to add a standard doorknob there, and I have set up at 24. Now that's probably because there's a price rule on there. I'm gonna take it off for now, because you can, and I'm back to the $30, and I'll do 20 here, and you see it changes to $28.50, and then I'll do 30, changes to 27. So, and that's very helpful with that, and shows again the last sold price, and then the base price. Again, this is based on my discounting. So quantity discounting, also very exciting with Enterprise 14 and in the advanced pricing. So let's talk about the exclusivity of a rule, or being able to do price overrides, I should say. If I go back to my inventory center, and I believe my brass hinges, they have, if I go to the actual price rule, they have exclusive a price override of $3 regardless of the rule. Actually, let me go to the price rule list. Sorry about that. And you'll see when I go to summer sale here, and if it's during these months, so June 21st to 10/20/2017, here's my price override. And I'm not combining it with anything else, but the brass hinges is $3 regardless of the percentage. So when I'm on my actual sales receipt and I choose brass hinges, I should expect to see $3, and even though it's exclusive, as part of the summer sale price rule for this particular item. So even though it should be 20% off, it's still going to be $3 because I created a price override for brass hinges against that rule, even when it's in play. So quite a bit of sophistication and functionality regarding. Let me go to window close all now. Regarding some of the features within Enterprise 14. And then finally, I wanted to show you guys another thing. If I go back to the inventory center, you can set the max and min for an item for ordering, which can be very helpful. So if I go in and edit this particular item, I can actually send a max. Go quantity enhance 246, my max is 300, so I'm never going to order more than that. And where this comes into play is when I go ahead and do my stock status report and auto create purchase orders, it'll take into effect the or factor in the maximum so I don't over order. And you can even do available quantity. So you might have sales orders for this, and when I go to create auto purchase orders, it's just not going to order more than that maximum. So that's also very helpful for anybody, ordering items, tracking inventory stock, and not wanting to over order, and doing build assemblies. And then of course for that pricing sophistication, that's part of the advanced pricing module within Enterprise 14. And of course, advanced pricing is an add-on by price. You have to pay for that $3.99 a year and have to have a full service plan. But that in tandem with the advanced inventory, and I just love the quantity discounting. This concludes that video segment. We roll on to the next. Job costing improvements within Enterprise Solutions 14. Some stuff that's exciting. Jobs, time, and mileage. There's a couple reports. There's a job whip summary report that shows the earned revenue column. Now this is a report that defaults to accrual base, just so you guys know, accrual basis I should say, not cash basis. There's no, when you customize it, there's not something that shows it that cash basis is grayed out, but just so you know. So you have an earned revenue column here and a percent complete. So you don't have to actually run the percent complete. This would be like a summary without having to choose a particular job. So job work in process report. And some of the columns you can drill into and some you can't. But it just gives you a good idea of what my earned revenue is so far on, say, the secondary edition for Brian Cook. Right, so excellent. Very helpful for there. I know you guys were using workarounds before for that. Another report, also under jobs, time, and mileage, and only found within Enterprise 14, is the committed cost by job report. Now, this is, I think, a huge win. Basically, the story here is that purchase orders and time, when you assign it to a job, they will not show the cost until you put it on a posting transaction. So now I actually have time, though I can't drill into the unpaid wages, but I haven't put on a paycheck or a bill yet or a check. It shows the cost of the hours worked for when I assigned those, that time entry using either the weekly timesheet or the single time activity window to the particular job, as well as purchase orders. The committed cost from a purchase order. And I think if I drill into that, you'll see the purchase order. And I mean, before you would have to kind of enter this, enter a bill against it and then delete out the bill at the end of the period or something to get that cost before it's actually really on a posting document. So it's pretty exciting to have things that are on a purchase order assigned to a job or time entry to show up as committed cost before their time, or before, what I mean by that is before they're put on a posting transaction. And probably my favorite is forever. Bills, credit card charges, and checks. You can't customize them. All right? You can't. So I'm going to go ahead and use my old, I think View Consulting is still in here. I like using this one. Or let's just use Jen here. That's fine. And you can put on an amount. And I'll put an account for the work they're doing. And this is some kind of repairs and maintenance work. And I'm going to assign it to a job, of course. The family room for Chris Baker. Let me make this bigger. But I can actually right-click, and there's an option to customize columns now. And I can add custom fields, sales rep, of course, the ability to assign a sales rep to a job for a customer. That's new for Pro and Premier 2014. Obviously, it's then also in Enterprise. But because I can now customize columns on these historically uncustomizable purchase or cost documents is a huge win for contractors and those who are doing job costing and estimate to actual reporting, I should say, within QuickBooks. Just the ability to customize columns and add columns, even to the level of custom fields. You're customizing the bill and you're customizing the actual check and the credit card charge. So that's pretty exciting stuff that I can do that. And like I said, let me go ahead and just add the sales rep, even though I don't think I have one, but sales rep, and I can add that. Now it's a column over there, see? So I can choose the sales rep and even assign it on the cost transaction. So real interesting stuff. And keep in mind, I mean, I'm not going to see that when I preview it, or print it out, because again, there's no formatting of a bill or check or credit card charge, right? But still, being able to customize it on the screen and see it and save it on the window, very helpful. And of course, it'll flow through the reporting as well. So those are some of the job cost improvements and enhancements within Enterprise 14. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.